Wren. Marcus is going to share with us about 170 years of Wren family history in Claiborne and Webster parishes. If my math is right, that's running up on 2 centuries of influence in our area, which is certainly an accomplishment. So if you would, well, give a good, warm, Minden-lined welcome to Marcus Wren.
Well, fellow Lions, good afternoon. It's good to be here. I'm a blessed man. God has blessed me untold, and I'm so blessed. But I won't belittle it. But I'm going to start with my family. My great-grandfather was named George Washington Wren. He was born in 1802, 2 years after George Washington died. And George Washington was a hero back then, and they named him George Washington Wren. And he married his wife. She was Sarah Bridges Wren, but he lived to be 82, and she lived from 1812 to 1912. That's a pretty good while, nearly 100 years. But anyway, they got married in 1830, and my grandfather was buried in 1836, and they moved to Webster Parish in 1845. And I really start from 1845 till today. But they came here, my grandfather, great-grandfather and his family, and he had a bunch of slaves and a bunch of cattle and so forth. So they sent him in several covered wagons and brought his family here. And he got the door cheap, and he said, shoot, I can ship my cotton out on door cheap on the bow every year to New Orleans and sell my cotton. So he bought 400 acres down here where is now the South Webster Industrial Park. In fact, he's buried in there. There's a Wren cemetery there, and there's 7 people buried, and all he and his bunch of his children and grandchildren are buried down there. In fact, and my son and I keep it up. We still keep that cemetery up. It's been there since 1882. But anyway, he moved here in 1854, his daddy sent he and a brother back to Emory University for an education. And his brother got a doctor's degree and came back. He moved up to Arkansas to practice, but my grandpa came back here. He got 3 degrees, and I've got his diploma, and 3 diplomas in my closet. All of them got 1859. They're in Latin. I can't read them, but I got them read. But anyway, he had a degree in education, a master's education, and a law degree. He tried to practice law, but he couldn't make a living back then in law, so he went into teaching. And he taught, but anyway, and when the Civil War started, he joined the Minden Blues. And they were signed to the 8th Army, and they left here with about 120 men from Claiborne and Webster Parish. This was Claiborne Parish at that time. It became Webster Parish in 1871. But anyway, he joined that and went to the Civil War. And he fought in 20 of the biggest battles up in Virginia. He's in Bull Run, Manassas, Sharpsburg, Antietam, Gettysburg, and a bunch of other battles. He was wounded twice and captured twice. When he was captured the first time, he exchanged for prisoners. The others let them go, but he just automatically re-enlisted. And he was wounded twice and captured twice. When the war was over, he was in prison in Delaware in the Mosquito Island prison in Delaware. When the war was over, according to my grandmother, they opened the gates and said, go home, and my grandmother walked home. 1,100 miles. I guess he probably caught something on the Mississippi River and came down part of the way. But anyway, and he came home, and about that time, after he came home, another great-grandfather of mine and 4 men, bought 40 acres of land up here at Pine Grove, just above my house up there, and built a school and a church up there for the kids to go to, because they were 8 and 9 miles out of town, and you couldn't walk back and forth then, no cars or nothing. But anyway, and that's where they started. And they hired my grandpa because they wanted somebody that had a college education, and he had a master's degree in education, and he taught up there for over 20 years. And anyway, and then shortly after teaching up there in 1869, he and my grandmother got married, and he bought that land there where I'm living right to this day, which has been in my family since 1869. That's about 150 years ago. And I still live there. In fact, today, one of my sons is moving back there, and he and his son is going to be the 5th generation that's lived there. But anyway, so they came and got married and had a bunch of kids, had 8 kids there. And anyway, from there, then my daddy was born right where I'm living in 1876. And that was the 100th anniversary of this country. That was 130 years ago. But anyway, he was born there, and my daddy was raised there. And my daddy, when I was born, my daddy was a farmer, a school bus driver, and a teacher in Manor High School. 3 full-time jobs. And in 1931, he and my mother started to get into the milk business, milking cows and bottling milk, and delivering it to Mendon, Louisiana. So in 1931, I ended up getting in the milk business. And for 25 years, my daddy's clock was set at 4 o'clock in the morning. As a kid, he got us up to go help milk cows. And when he'd get up, build a fire, and then call my brother and I to get up and come help milk. And if he got out there and got the cows in, and we weren't out there, he'd come by the well on the back porch and get a dipper of water and come in and throw the covers back and throw it on us. Boy, we leaped out of bed. You don't cold water on your bed. You don't lay there. But anyway, so I was taught to work. I worked all of my life and liked to work, and still hated I can't work anymore. But anyway, so I started working then, and I was in the milk business for over 50 years of my life, counting as a kid coming up. And anyway, then the war started in 1941, and I was a senior in high school at that time. And anyway, a little bit, I went to Tech first and messed around there, and my folks, I had a good time, and they said, "You're not playing around, we need some help at home," so they had me come back home and help them. And I stayed there for a little while, and then I went into the Army. I was drafted in the Army. I was in the 32nd Infantry, and I took my basic training in Camp Robinson, Arkansas, and I was shipped overseas to the Philippines, and we ended up on Luzon and fighting on Luzon. And when the war was over, I was sleeping in foxholes every night up there for about 6 months. We sleeping and trying to dig those Japanese out. And when the war was over, they came on in the mountains there, they came with loudspeakers and said, "The war is over." And it said that in English one time, and it said Japanese, "The war is over, surrender and come out. The war is over, surrender and come out." Well, anyway, they got us, and we came down, they loaded us on a plane, and my outfit was designed to make the invasion of Japan. And the invasion of Japan, as all of you know, the Japanese had vowed to fight till death, don't give up at all. And when MacArthur signed the peace treaty in Tokyo Bay on September the 2nd, 1945, on September the 3rd, the next day, I was on Japan, because they already had us designed to go to Japan. I was on Japan liberating prisoners. And we liberated, French and Dutch and English and American prisoners, which was quite a grave sight. Those poor fellows come out with a shirt, and you could count every rib in them. They were starved to death. But anyway, and then I was on the occupation of Japan for a little while. And then I came home and went back to work with my folks. And then I went to LSU and took dairy manufacturing. Then I came back home in 1949. And I helped my mother and daddy. I kind of took over running Wren's Dairy. And then in 1951, I was offered a job in my business to go in with Marriage with Sanitary Dairy. And I went with them in 1951, and that's the year I got married in 1951. I married Gay Stewart, who was out here on the Dorcheat Road, and I was married to her for 60 years, had a wonderful wife and a wonderful life, and we ended up with 5 children. And what I brag about today, I don't have to support any of my 5 children, and they don't support me. I think that's pretty successful today. You don't have any of them to support. But anyway, all I'm doing well. I got 12 grandchildren, and I got 5 greats, and then I got a lot of friends, and I'm on the Lord's side. So I'm a winner and been a winner. But anyway, I went to work for Sanitary Dairy, and I worked there for 32 years and sold my business out to BHS Foods. And they offered me a buyout, and I said, well, I'll take your money. And so I got out. And then in 1980, January of 1980, I bought Music Mountain Water Company in Shreveport. And I had 2 boys, and I put them in that business, and I ended up with 4 boys in it. But now I've got just 2 boys in it, because 4 brothers don't work together too well too long. But they worked together for 30 years. But anyway, just 2 in it now, and we're finishing 37 years next month in that business. So I'm pretty pleased, but we're still there, still at it. But anyway, that's kind of the big part of what I've done and where I've been and what I'm doing. But God's been so good to me. I'd like to say I was glad I was born when I was born. I was glad I was born in the United States of America. I was glad I was born at Wren, Louisiana. And I had wonderful grandparents who had good work ethics, had religious convictions and so forth. And then I married my wife, and we were married for 60 wonderful years, and I lost her 5.5 years ago. And then I got a lot of friends, and I think I'm on God's side. So I think I've had a good life and good thing. But that's the highlights of my 170 years, starting 1845 till today. And I hope we'll be here another 100 years after that. If any of you, and I've been lucky too. I've traveled a good bit. In fact, Claude West and I started running around together over 40 years ago. And I've been into 49 of the 50 states. And I've been in 5 continents, hadn't been to Africa, 5 of the major continents. And I haven't been anywhere that I like as well as I do Wren, Louisiana. But anyway, it's been good to me, and it's been a good shift. If any of you got any questions, I'll try to answer them. I don't know if I have or not, but I'm trying not to be too long. I'm trying to leave out a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter.
What's the only state you haven't been to?
North Dakota.
You said your grandfather bought land in 1869. Did he buy that from the government, or did you buy it from individuals?
No, it was some cut-over timberland. And I don't know who had it, but he bought it for $1 an acre. In 18...
Do you want to double your money?
Well, I had to buy most of the land. I didn't get a part of it inherited, but I bought most of it. But anyway, land's been good to me, and I'm a tree farmer now. I call myself a tree farmer, so I'm still a farmer. And anyway.
Where was the home place there where the Southwest Webster Industrial District is? Where was the home place?
Okay, it was, you go in south. Do you happen to know where the cemetery is?
Would that be on the east or the west side?
It's on the west side. The Dorchete, the
East side.
it's on the east side. But you go down that's Main Street down there, and the cemetery's right down there, and the house place was right down there. It was right there. In fact, my grandmother told me when my grandpa was a little old boy, his daddy gave him a muzzle loader with 2 shots, and the ducks used to come flocking in down there in the bottoms down in Dorchete. And with those 2 shots, and he gave him a gunny sack, or for a feed sack. He said, those 2 shots I want you to bring back a sack load of ducks. And said he, those scatter shots they did, and used to get that down at Dorchete. But anyway.
So your cotton was on the west side all the way to Dorchete there?
It was on both sides of the highway. Both sides of the highway back then. But anyway, he raised cotton down there and so forth and so on, and he died in 1884, and he was 82 years of age. But my grandpa also was a state representative for 8 years in Baton Rouge in the 1880s, and a state senator for 4 years. And I've tried to find out how did he get beat, or did he get beat, and I was told he got disgusted with politics and he didn't run anymore. So he ran anyway. He was down there for 12 years at Baton Rouge. All right.
Marcus, you said you bought
the water company when?
In 1980, excuse me.
1980.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of bottled water back then.
No,
And so I just want to say from a banker's view, I love you entrepreneurs. You know, I love you guys that think like, you know, like an entrepreneur. I'm a banker. I look for all the things go bad. I can't imagine you going into a banker and saying, I'm going to borrow X amount of dollars because I'm going to sell water.
well,
In 1980, I mean, as a banker, we thought, sell water, we can pay for water.
let me give you the background on that. I've had a friend from down in Corpus Christi, Texas, and he was in the bottled water business. And I asked him, who in the world go buy bottled water? He said, well, when this country gets polluted enough and all the water gets bad, you got to have water in the air to drink and breathe. And said people going to go to bottled water. And I like it, and so I found out about that business over there and told a fellow about it. And so anyway, what I did, when I sold my business to BH's Foods, I got a pretty good little sum of money. And I told my boys, I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my collateral, my money I got from BH's Foods for collateral, and I'm going to buy the business, but you got to pay it back. If you don't pay it back, you're going to lose your inheritance. So anyway, that's how I came about it, doing that. But anyway, we're still in it and still going. So that's. Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna let you out.
Hey, I got one question.
All right.
Looking back on this long career and life that you had here in Webster Parish, is there anything you look back on and you say, you know, if I'd have done that differently, I'd have done this?
You know, I'm an optimist, and I look at the good of things and so forth and so on. And I've made some mistakes, but I tell my kids and grandkids, in life you got to make a lot of decisions. And you got to make more right decisions than wrong decisions. But when you make a decision, you got to make it right. You got to make it work. And I said, and if you get at it and you work at it and you make it work, and then it's just not going to be easy. You're going to have to work at it. But anyway, you know, running a business is not easy. It's hard, and you have to do it. But I've been in business as a kid. Up to right to this day, I've still been in business all of my life. That's all I know. Any other questions?
Mark,
Yeah.
I made a few calls down here in the country, treating cows, and I saw an artesian well down there, and I was thinking your trucks go down there and get that water, but I looked around and I didn't see no mountains, and I listened and I didn't hear any music. You understand what's going on? That's a music mountain. I don't understand it.
Well, first of all, we got a spring in Arkansas. We truck it in. We got trailers. We truck it in. And then we got a spring down in Dublin. Down in Dublin, we got a spring. We go down there every day and get trailers of water. Every day down at the Rollins place, down there below Dublin.
That's where I treat the cow.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, we go down there and we get water down there from them. Got a spring down there on Irving. It used to be Irving Rollins' place down in Dublin. If any knew him, he used to be on the police jury here. But anyway, we get our water through, and then we got a well water we get water out of. But it's listed on the bottle where the water comes from. But that business, when I got into it, hardly nobody's in it. Now everybody's in it. In fact, today, the second most popular beverage in the United States, first is cold drink, and second is bottled water. It's over milk, coffee, liquor, beer, and all other drinks, tea, all the other stuff. But anyway, God's been good to me, and I've been very fortunate, and I hope I've been a little bit interesting to you, to Webster Parish. And I guess probably all of you know that this was Claiborne Parish in 1871. In 1871, it went to Webster Parish. So it's been Webster Parish from 1871. That was two years after my grandparents got married out there. Thank you. May God bless you. We'll see.